Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Zara and today I am going to be doing a review of a book that may be one of my favourites of all time. Now, you might be able to tell that I am talking a little bit quieter than I normally do, and that's because I have a family member who is staying with me and they are having a nap. So that is why I'm speaking in a more hushed tone. That shouldn't stop me from reviewing this wonderful book that I'm about to talk about for the next 10 to 15 minutes, and that is His Excellency Eugène Rougon by Zola. Now, this book is incredibly political, cerebral, and deeply human. It is a study of ambition, vanity, and the machinery of power under the Second Empire. To give a little bit of context, this is technically the sixth book in the Rougon-Macquart cycle. Definitely said that wrong. This is Zola's huge world, which I think has over 20 books. They're all interconnected with one another, and this one particularly focuses on political power rather than social struggle. It is a masterclass in Zola's ability to turn bureaucracy into drama. And one other thing that I will mention here before I jump into my thoughts is that I am actually reading the Rougon-Macquart cycle in Zola's recommended reading order. So that is not his publication order. And if you read it in his recommended reading order, this is actually the second book that you're supposed to read. So I've only read two of the books in the Rougon-Macquart cycle thus far. And I'm reading one book every other month. And so far, I've been really enjoying the journey. But this one, I particularly want to call out. So a quick plot summary. This book follows Eugène Rougon, who is a politician navigating the complex, often corrupt world of the imperial government. Around him are a web of allies, flatterers, and lovers, each seeking advantage from his rise. The story is not about battles or revolutionaries, but about the quieter, more poisonous politics of proximity and influence. Zola dissecting how power operates behind closed doors. Now, if that already doesn't sell you on the book, I mean, I don't know how it couldn't, because that sounds incredible. Like, this is literally a book that was written for me, because that is the sort of stuff that I love in my books, you know, lots of politics, but it's more about the machinations that are happening behind closed doors. It's about the whispers and the rumours and the things that you're supposed to read between the lines rather than the things that are obviously said. And I have to say, I think Zola does these things particularly well. Now let's talk about my thoughts on the actual book itself. So I think in terms of the writing style, Zola's prose is very disciplined and clear. It is almost like his writing is the architecture of a government building. It's very, very ordered and it flows very, very well. His naturalistic detail makes even paperwork and banquets feel alive, and he balances satire with empathy. We feel both the absurdity and the allure of power. The tone is cool, intelligent, and precise, matching its political subject, Eugène Rougon. And I think that was actually one of my favourite things about this book, is that while it is quite clinical in nature, there are these lighter moments, there are these emotional moments that are dotted throughout the story that really make it feel grounded. Let's talk about pacing. Now, I wish this book had been longer. It didn't really need to be though, because I think the length of the book is perfect. And the pacing itself actually mirrors political process. It's deliberate, it's strategic, it's full of build-up and then release. The opening draws us into the political and social fabric of the time, and once Rougon's machinations begin, the tension tightens beautifully. It is not a page-turner in the conventional sense. It is a slow burn masterpiece that you cannot put down, in my opinion. I read this book in like 3 days because I was so hooked, even though there isn't, you know, like a ton of action. The action is the whispers, the rumours, the gossiping. It is the alliances that are forged and broken so easily. And that's what makes this book so, so special. Let's talk about characters a little bit, and I'm really going to focus on our main character, the man himself, Eugène Rougon. He is a man of contradictions. He is commanding, yet he is insecure. He's idealistic, yet self-serving. His power isn't just political, it is also psychological. He needs authority the way other people need affection. Zola paints him as the perfect embodiment of ambition corrupted by ego. We admire his intelligence, but wince at his blindness to his own pride. Eugène is a perfect example of a character that I love because there's so many parts of him that I really respect and in some ways also relate to. There's other parts of him that I utterly despise and hope that I myself don't contain any of those things that he represents. He's the sort of character that you would hope, if he didn't have the level of pride that he does have in this book, you wouldn't be a fool in believing that he could actually achieve some really great things from a utilitarian perspective. Eugène is the perfect example of a character that I'd actually love to see use his power for social good, but he just doesn't have the capacity to do that because what matters more to him is power itself. Surrounding him are his inner circle. I'm not going to mention any specific names because I don't want to spoil anything, and I think you should experience these characters as you meet them. But he has ministers, sycophants, and social climbers all surrounding him, all hungry for his favour. And their desperation is what really gives this book its dark comedy, gives the light relief, and is needed because there are some kind of heavy aspects to this book, particularly as it relates to themes. The women in this book are also particularly interesting because they are far from passive and they manipulate, seduce, and influence often much more subtly than the men in this book. Their power operates in the private sphere, emotional, sexual, and social, but it drives the politics of the novel. Through them, Zola explores how women excluded from formal politics learn to wield informal power, which is sometimes even more important than formal power. They become mirrors for Rougon himself, ambitious, strategic, and sometimes morally compromised. I loved how the women were written in this book. There's one female character in particular who is incredibly strong, but she's also incredibly flawed. And there are many parts of her that I respect, and there are many parts of her that I equally despise. And these are the types of characters that I personally really love. I think if you want a book of realistic character types who are incredibly morally grey and flawed, then this is a book that you must pick up. Overall, I think the characters are just fantastic. There is quite a wide cast of characters in this book, yet they all feel very distinct. We know exactly what part of like French society they represent at that time, and we know why they're doing it, what they're trying to get out of it, and we see all of the flaws that they each represent as it relates to society as a whole. Now let's move on to themes, and this one is probably going to be the longest section. So naturally with a book like this, there is a lot of discussion around power and corruption. Zola's central obsession here is how power doesn't necessarily just corrupt individuals, it actually becomes their identity. Eugène's sense of self dissolves into the offices that he controls. And I want to also add a quote for each theme that I talk about here. And the one that I want to mention here is as follows. He belonged to that class of men who do not exist apart from authority. And I think that is just such an apt summation of Eugène's character. Once power defines him, and once power defines any individual, losing it means annihilation. Then there's politics as theatre, the idea that everyone is just doing a performance. In Zola's world, everything is a performance. Alliances, gestures, and calculated appearances. Everyone acts a part, and sincerity becomes a liability. Now, this is actually one of my favourite themes as of late. The idea that all humans are wearing a mask and who they're talking to kind of dictates what mask they're wearing. This is one of my favourite themes in general, and it's something that I particularly look out for in the classics that I read as of late, and I think that is perfectly highlighted in this book. Here is a quote to illustrate that point. He was prodigal of smiles, as though scattering favours from a throne. And I think this shows the performative side of politics, where it becomes indistinguishable from reality. As I mentioned earlier, there is the role of women and the politics of seduction. Women in this book really embody indirect power. Since they cannot enter chambers of state, they influence men who can through charm, affection, and manipulation. Zola doesn't idealize this though. He presents it as both survival and strategy in a patriarchal system. Their ambition reflects the same hunger for control that drives Eugène, but their methods are necessarily subtler. As for a quote, "In her smile there was the quiet patience of those who must rule without seeming to." And Zola's women are not weak, they are adaptive, using social and emotional intelligence to navigate a male-dominated order, and they will use whatever means they absolutely can to do so. Then we have the illusion of control. Eugène believes he governs fate, but Zola shows him as a prisoner of vanity, politics, and circumstance. Determinism, which is a key theme in Zola's works, underlies absolutely everything. No one truly acts freely. And a quote to illustrate this, "He did not govern, he possessed." Control becomes obsession, and possession replaces purpose. And finally, we have moral ambiguity and human frailty. There are no clear heroes or villains in this novel, just flawed people rationalizing their desires. Zola shows that political corruption is rooted in personal weakness, fear, pride, and the need for validation. And I should say the constant need for validation. A quote here, "He forgave easily as one forgives a tool one may use again," shows that compassion, politics, and calculation blur until they're indistinguishable. Everybody is just a tool to be used by somebody else, and if they cannot help you or further your own goals, then they are no longer of use to you. Zola does a really good job of interweaving all of these themes, showing us that humans are predictably predictable in their quest for power, money, and influence. And I think that's one of my favourite things about this book, is that I think it really tackles these themes with a level of nuance that we just don't get in modern literature, in my opinion. And he does it in such a short amount of time. Like, this book is not a long book. It's about 220 pages, if I remember correctly. I read the Oxford World Classics version. So that is not long. And yet he's able to deconstruct the human condition in a way that I've not seen many authors do, even classic authors. If any of this sounds particularly appealing to you, definitely give this one a go. I know I'm going to get people asking me whether you need to start with the first book. I mean, the thing is about this world is that the characters are kind of interchangeable in the sense that there is no continuous plot line through every single book. Each book is tackling different themes, different characters. They're all kind of related to each other, but there's not one consistent plot line. So in theory, you could pick this one up first. But if you want to do it properly, I would recommend doing it in Zola's recommended reading order, The Man Himself. But you'll only have to read one book in order to get to this one, and that's also a short book, so please give it a go. I gave this book a 5 stars. Like, I think this might genuinely be one of my, not only one of my favourite pieces of French literature, but just one of my favourite pieces of literature. What makes His Excellency Eugène Rougon so powerful is that it is not just a political novel, as I just said. It is a book about the human condition. And Zola turns the machinery of the state into a mirror for the machinery of the soul. Every character, every conversation is about the price of ambition and the illusion of control. If you've ever wondered about how power corrupts, seduces, and ultimately consumes individuals, then Zola captures it with unmatched precision. For me, this is one of the best pieces of literature I've ever read. Like, I read this book months ago and I still think about it, and I want to do a reread of it because I genuinely think it has the potential to become one of my favourite books of all time. It already is, but I always think if you're claiming something to be your favourite book, you should probably reread it to confirm that. And I will definitely do that probably next year because it is so good. So good. So that's it, folks. Please consider reading Zola. I think even if you read fantasy and sci-fi or literary fiction, these books are very readable. I'm reading the Oxford World Classics versions and they're very readable. I think many of you who watch my channel will really enjoy them, particularly this one. So that's it. Thanks for watching, folks. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed the more hushed tones. Maybe I should do an ASMR review at some point. That would be fun. But yeah, let me know down below in the comments if you've read it or if you want to read it, if you have any questions, and I will see you there. Thanks for watching. Stay safe as always. Take care, and I'll see you very, very soon.